Bitter Side of Sweet, Chapter 2. When I've taken all the ripe pods off that tree, I drop to the ground, expecting Sadhu to have collected them. Instead, I find him harvesting his own pods in a way I told him never to do. I stalk up behind him, watching him swing his machete in wide arcs. He knows better. Sadhu is young and clumsy. When we're harvesting, I make him hold the blunt side of the blade with 2 hands and saw it across the stem. I don't let him use the machete any other way, and he's not allowed to climb trees with it. Sadhu! He turns and looks at me, his machete freezing in midair. What do you think you're doing? I see his grip tighten. I'm working, he says. You know better than to do it that way. Point at machete. Where's it? I'm trying to help us make quota, he snaps. Your way takes forever, and we already lost an hour. I glance at the girl, who's sitting in front of a tree, arms crossed, silently glaring at me. She's no longer tied to Moose's waist. It must have been too difficult for him to move around. Instead, he tied her here. The knots are tight, complex, and out of her reach. Sadhu's right, of course. Just lose valuable work. Her machete's not soft. It does him well. But even if it slows us down, I won't see him get hurt. This is a session day. Do it properly. Sadhu's face gets hard and flat. He's serious. I'm helping, he insists. I roll my eyes. I don't care. Pay attention and do it right. I turn away to collect the 9 pods I got off the last tree and shove them in my sack. You never let me help, Sadhu yells at my back. I can hear the tears clogging his voice. I'm sick of arguing with him, sick of telling him he's too young, too small. Sick of it always having to be my job to keep him from getting hurt. I grab my sack and look sideways at him. If I see you being reckless with your machete again just to impress a stupid girl, I'll beat you myself. Then, to make sure that Sadhu doesn't follow me while I'm still mad, I carry my sack to where Musa is working and climb the tree next to his. I know Sadhu won't get closer to the bosses, even to have the satisfaction of yelling at me. As I hack at the next pod, I hear a low laugh coming from the greenery off to my right. Always on the lookout, aren't you? Hidden by the leaves, Moose's voice sounds oddly friendly. For a moment, I think about how nice it would be if he actually were. But without being able to see what the rest of him is doing, I don't feel entirely safe. Yes, I mumble. Moose's low laugh rolls over me again, and with a pang, I wish for Moki. My grandfather didn't laugh very often, but when he did, his laugh was like warm honey. In the early days here, I used to think all the time, how can I run away? What is my family doing right now? Is Moki worried about us? Are they searching? How much longer will we have to work before we pay off our debt and the bosses let us go home? The questions would see through me, twisting on themselves in new shapes, again and again like an injured snake. I soon learned the price of thinking. It slowed me down, and I didn't make quota. Now I count instead of thinking, and I'm able to get through most of my waking hours in a daze. It's better this way. Chop, twist, toss, check. 37. I don't say anything else to Musa, and I refuse to think of anyone other than the rise and fall of my machete. After a while, I manage to enter my empty place. That strange state of mind I get to when I'm working, where the burn in my muscles is the only way to track the passing of time. It's like being half asleep or feverish. I move without having to think about it, without having to think about anything. The sun is sunk about a hand lower in the sky when I'm finally not angry with Sadhu anymore, and I decide to go back and try to talk to him again. Numbly, I've followed Musa for the past few hours, and we've wandered well away from where I last saw Sadhu. I have my comfortably full sack, 60, high on my shoulder to avoid the old bruises as I walk. It hurts to carry, but its weight feels good. Between what I've got and whatever Sadhu managed on his own, we might actually have a chance to make quota today, even with the delay the girl caused by her arrival. I'm still a little ways off when I hear a soft sobbing filtering through the trees. My heart pounds as I break into a run. It was stupid to leave Sadhu working alone just because I was mad. If he's gotten hurt when I wasn't there to help him, I'm never going to forgive myself. I break through the last bit of underbrush and rush to Sadhu. At first, I can't tell what's wrong. A quick glance around the nearby tree shows me a chest-high ring of sloppily cut stems. In the near flat sack at his feet, there are maybe a dozen pods. I can't see his machete or any obvious injuries. I drop my sack and grab his arms, turning him this way and that. What's wrong? I shout. His eyes are terrified. Set in his round face, they make him look very young and breakable. Sobbing, snot and tears running down his face, Sadhu points behind me. I turn, and for a brief second, I don't really know what I'm looking for. Then I see the rope dangling from the tree. Empty. It feels like the world stops. I face Sadhu again, my eyes as wide as his. What did you do? I manage, my voice barely a whisper. Sadhu gasps. I'm shaking my head because no, this day did not just get worse. We had the chance to make quota. Everything was going to be all right. Now there's no way we're going to be okay. If we help the kid escape, Moose is going to destroy us. She asked me to cut her free as soon as you and Musa were out of sight. I said no, but she tricked me. Sadhu is beyond panic. She asked me to come over when we were talking, and then she knocked me to the ground and took my machete, and she. He trails off, pointing at a spot in the bush to his right where the branches are bent at odd angles. Then starts sobbing again. Amadou, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wave my hand at him to shut him up so I can think. Of course he's sorry. I'm always the one bailing him out when he makes mistakes. I bet he knew the minute this happened that I'd figure out a way to take care of this. I tried to think over the panic churning in my belly. I can't believe that she would put Sadhu in this situation. Already I'm right. The girl's not worth the trouble she's causing. That little snake. I'm so angry at her I feel like I'd kill her myself. But my terror quickly overrides my anger. Any minute now, Moose is going to come here to check on all of us. I look at Sadhu curled on his nearly empty sack, his breath wheezing in and out of his skinny little ribs as he sobs. I imagine Moose's rage at losing the girl, the kind of beating that's likely to follow this disaster, could kill Sadhu. Not every boy survives here. Some have fallen sick and died of their diarrhea. Some have been bitten by poisonous snakes or spiders while they worked in the bush. And one, a stringy boy named Yakuba, got beaten and went unconscious and never came out of it. I think of the scars that already crossed Sadhu's back, and I make a reach over and skim hard across his face. He reels, surprised, cutting off his crying. I never hit Sadhu. You were an idiot to trust her, I snarl low and fierce. Now pull yourself together and shut up. Then I throw my machete at him, whirl on my heel, and race back the way I've just come. Musa! I yell at the top of my lungs. Musa! I nearly ram into him. I was right. He was on his way to check on us. What? He says. What is it? I try to catch the breath my fear has knocked out of me. The wildcat escaped. I manage. What? He roars. How? My mind races. When I went to check on Sadhu, she tricked me into coming over to her. She knocked me off my feet and stole my machete. She cut herself loose. She knocked you over? A girl who was tied up, knocked you over and stole your machete? Maybe that wasn't the best way to put it. Moose's meaty hand slammed to the side of my head. You make me sick. He grabs me by the ear and drags me to Sadhu. Since I'm almost as tall as him, his grip on my ear makes me bend nearly double. Head still spinning from being hit. I have a hard time keeping my footing. But I'm still here, still standing, and even if he believes an embarrassing story, at least he doesn't know the truth. When we burst through the bushes, Sadhu jumps, holding my machete out in front of him. Tears are streaming down his face, and his lower lip is trembling. But he stops sobbing, and I hope that Musa will assume his distress is from being generally afraid, and not from being responsible. Musa lets go of my ear and examines the tree with its dangling ropes. Reaching up, he slices through it near the knot and winds into loops. My ears throbs, but I know that I have to keep up my side of the story. She ran that way, I point. Musa scowls, looks at the afternoon sun, and lets loose a tight curse. He takes a moment, fingers fisted in his hair, and then seems to come to a decision. You, he points at Sadu, keep working. Harvest as much as you can. We're going to lose a lot of time chasing her, and it will be your fault if we don't bring in enough. Do you understand? Sadu darts a glance at me, frightened, and I take a step forward, my mouth open to argue for him, even though I don't know what I'm going to say. But Musa shoves an open hand in my direction, stopping me in my tracks. I said, do you understand? He repeats softly. Yes, I say, hearing that softness for the danger it is. Musa looks at me and holds out the rope. You're coming with me. My heart drops into my stomach. We'll never make quota now. With one last look at Sadu, I take the rope from Musa and follow him into the trees. Musa wastes only a moment looking at the place where she disappeared, and then he's off at a lope. Following the direction the girl has gone, I feel vulnerable running through the bush without a blade. Not only is La Brosse full of pythons, vipers, and poisonous spiders, there are also leopards, panthers, and vicious wild pigs that will rip you to pieces with their tusks as soon as they look at you. Even if no animal bothers us, I'm sick of branches slapping me in the face. But the wildcat took Sadu's machete, and the only way to get it is to capture her. Also, I need to get back to Sadu. 100 terrible images flash through my mind. What if he falls? What if he cuts his thigh open and bleeds to death? What if he steps on a snake? I shake my head and run faster. What's more likely is that he'll sit on the ground crying, too scared to move until we return. And then, when neither of us make quota, I run faster still. Musa doesn't break his pace, checking our trail as he runs. As I jog after him, jumping over low plants and dodging between trees, I try to figure out what he's tracking in the ground that I'm missing. It's not an easy task, and soon I find myself drawn by the challenge. Even when we were still at home, I never really went hunting. I just set snares around Moki's fields for rabbits. In front of me, Musa takes a quick left, and I slow. What made him turn? At first, I see nothing. Then, as I'm passing the bush, I notice where his sandaled foot has pushed the leaves aside. I follow Musa, eyes on the ground, scanning for telltale signs. Little by little, it gets easier. The ground tells a story. Feet trod here quickly, here slowly. She's getting tired. Look, a line from a dragged machete tip. I've entered my empty place, and the ground seems to shout its secrets. Pretty much every time Musa turns, I know why. A footprint in the soft loam, a smashed fern. Abruptly, Musa veers off to the left again, but I see a track to the right. I'm so wrapped up in the task that I don't even consider that he might not want my opinion, that he might not want my noise. Musa! He turns around and glares. His hand cuffs me on the ear. Shush, he says in a heavy whisper. We're getting close to her now, you idiot. Do you want to go shouting where we are, helping her escape? I trail off, remembering what we're tracking. I had forgotten for a few moments there that it's a person we're after, the difficult girl. That this isn't just one more job, one more thing to count, but another kid. The rest of the words come out shaky, unsure. I think that's a false trail. Look. For a moment, Musa's quiet as his eyes follow my pointing finger, taking in the slight scuffling of moss that shows careful steps leading away from the trail of broken branches. A slow smile creeps across his face. Good work, he says, and rubs his hand on my head as we turn to follow the real trail. Inside, my heart soars at the praise. It's been so long since someone told me I did a good job at anything. I've always have to be the one in charge with Sadu, always the one telling him it's all right and that he did well. I'd almost forgotten how nice it is to be the one to hear those words. It's not long before my new trail shows its worth. We're turning around a tree when I see a glint in the bushes. I act purely on instinct, calling Musa's name and pointing, and then the girl is exploding out of the bushes and sprinting away. For a brief moment, I think she might make it, but then Musa's after her, and I know that the chase is over. Very aware of the fact that I'm still the only one without a machete, I hang back and let him catch her. She lashes out wildly with the machete. A cold, distant part of my mind criticizes her swing. It wobbles with her exhaustion. It is poorly aimed. A few months working in the field would cure that, I think, and a small part of me smirks. That's exactly what she's about to get. And another part of me is ashamed of the thought. A third part of me, one that has slept dormant for months until this crazy girl showed up, wonders quietly how my work-trained swing would do if I were the one trying to escape. I brush the thought away like a bug near my ear, but a tiny echo of its buzz remains. Musa leaps sideways, avoiding the blade, and then rushes forward. He uses his machete to beat hers aside and then grabs her other arm with his free hand. He's shouting at her, shaking her, but I don't look, don't listen. Instead, I walk around them to where Seidu's machete has fallen into the undergrowth and pick it up. I'm glad to have it again, but I can't help noticing as I take the loop of rope off my shoulder and help Musa on the struggling girl that the handle is still warm from her hand.